Licks are the really fun part of playing the banjo. They are simply roll patterns that are played only for certain chords because they include the left-hand techniques such as slides, hammers, and pull-offs. It's helpful, I think, if you'll learn like a bunch of G chord licks, a bunch of C chord licks, and a bunch of D chord licks to start with. And then when you're improvising, say you're in a jam session with someone and they holler out that those are the chords you're going to play, well, you can string together those licks if you've never heard the song before. The licks are interchangeable. You can pick any two G licks, any two D licks, any two C licks, and string them all together, and you're going to have an arrangement if you play the chords in the right order according to the song. Just to demonstrate this, look on page 10 in your book, and let me run through, I'll just slowly go through this, but I'll demonstrate the top G licks just for two measures, then link it with two C licks, and then go over to the bottom of page 11 and link it with two D licks, just to show you how you can put them together. Now you can take that little exercise and work with it, and then switch out and play different G licks and play the same progression, switch it out, play different C licks, and so forth. And that's one great way to learn to start recognizing licks. Also, in your listening, you need to try to listen for the licks in this book, and then start picking out licks that you like that other people play, try to figure out what chord they're played for, and then put them in other songs. So licks are really a lot of fun. Now let's look at these close up. Okay, now if you look at page 9 in the book, we've got beginning licks. These are just pickup notes. Most songs have a little short pickup into them. And I'm going to play through these now. These lead into G, into the G chord. I'm going left to right. Into a C. Now the fun ones, the G chord licks. The first lick is played in almost every song that you will ever listen to. And notice it kind of leaves you hanging. That's because it's resolved by the lick that follows it. So the lick itself has 8 notes, just like your roll patterns, or 8 beats in it, or 8 counts. Looking at the right of that one, you'll see X's. And I should explain that those X's are pauses. They account for the 8 beats in the measure. So if you see an X, you just hold the note that was previous through that X. Sustain it. Now you can substitute the first lick for the second in a song. Now the third one. I'm going to page 10. These lead into the C chord. So you'd play them right before a C chord's going to occur. Now C chord licks. This will be the first C chord lick in the middle of the page. Now these are easiest if you'll hold the chord position. That one you leave your ring finger off and it creates a drone on the first string. The second line of C licks. I believe you hear that one in Flint Hills Special. Now at the very bottom of the page where it says combined licks, a lot of times you'll see that the C chord is played 2 measures in a row. And that's a nice way to put 2 licks together. Now the D chord licks on the next page. Left to right again. Now this one, the second line, second lick, you hold the D chord. Notice that you hold the D7 chord. On the third line, that's just a forward reverse roll, and you're holding a partial D chord. There'd be your full one. Now look at the third line, the last lick. That's kind of a pretty one. Now going down to the fifth line, these are 2 measure D licks. And they're all interchangeable. This got a nice little syncopation in it. Notice that's just the forward reverse roll with your right hand. Your left hand is what makes it work for the D chord. D chord ending licks. These are used at the end of a song right before the final G chord. And this is a nice one. And D chord licks are often played as 2 measure licks. Okay, you turn the page, you go over to the A chord licks, and that'll be on page 12. And 2 measure lick. That usually goes into a D chord when it's played in the key of G. Now F chord, third line, you hold the chord, kind of keep that in mind with these licks. You have to remember which finger to lift up. The third lick in the F, and I'll play one of the B licks, and an E minor lick. This is like Foggy Mountain Breakdown. And I just combine the first 2 E minor licks. Now I think it's important to, if you're a beginner particularly, to go on in the book. Don't try to memorize every lick to start with. Then come back to these as a reference and practice swapping them out.